Hi, this is Elizabeth Eubanks from the Ground Up Community Garden, and I have this lovely book here, and it's called We Are the Gardeners, and it's by Joanna Gaines and some kids. So I got this book from Becca, and Becca has little green bees, and she also runs the Everman's Garden, and she shared this with me, and I think that she got a bunch of them from the Pensacola Little Theater, so we're super happy to have it. It's adorable, it fits perfect with the garden, and I just want to read it to you. So the illustrations are by Joanna Gaines, and they're lovely. The book was published by a gentleman named Tommy Nelson. You can see that. And the book is To Our Dad. You have taught us that we can do hard things and to never give up even when we fail. There's a great picture. We Are the Gardeners. That's a pretty official title, but we didn't start out this way. Just like our garden, we started small and grew from there. Some say that a garden just grows from seeds, but we think it grows from trying and failing and trying again. A garden is hard work, but so is most of the good, important stuff in life, and I think it's fun too. Our family's garden story began with one small potted fern. Dad stumbled upon it at the hardware store when he ran in for some supplies. He said it was too cute to leave behind, and he thought it would make Mom smile, and it did. Great illustrations here. There's the pretty fern with a cardinal. We chose a sunny windowsill for that pretty little fern. It seemed like a good safe spot for him to grow. This was back when we were little kids, but we still remember visiting the plant each day to give him a drink, and sometimes we'd even whisper to him a bit. All lined up. And then, plot twist. Out of nowhere, our fern died. Death by overhydration. Do you know what that means? That's just a fancy way of saying we gave him too much water. Looking back, each one of us must have watered him every day. That's a lot of drinks for a little plant. By mistake, we loved that plant to death. Some people tell themselves they are no good at something after one small failure. But no chance we were going to give up that easily. Dun, 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 dun. So it looks like they're reading and learning about plants. So we checked out some books from the library, and we found out that ferns can be tricky and prefer to live in a shady spot. Apparently, a plant's leaves can communicate to us what they're needing. We also learned that most plants have good manners and like to sip, not gulp. Lesson learned. Again. Dad got us a fresh fern, and with it came fresh hope. This time, we set the pot on our piano, way on the other side of the room where the sun wouldn't give him so much attention. We made a watering schedule and took turns and saying lots of nice things to our little sprout of a plant. And fern number 2 lived and thrived and grew. And finally, Mom got him a little potted friend. And then another, and then one or two more. We noticed that talking to our plants actually helped them grow bigger and stronger. So we added some songs and jokes into the mix. Unlike when we overwatered, 0 plants died from us talking too much. Pretty soon, plants were taking over the house, and Dad said it was time to graduate to an outdoor garden. So here's the perfect little plant that's doing great. And there's added some plants. Mom was as excited about the new outdoor garden as we were. She started talking about it with a dream look in her eyes. That's when Dad called a family meeting so we could come help with a real plan. We all gathered around the kitchen table and got to work dreaming, planning, and drawing things out. We knew we needed a sunny spot, a place where plants could sunbathe for at least 6 hours a day. We'd be red as radishes if we did that, but plants just love it. And more than that, they need it. In the garden, there is no life without light. Dad always says the foundation is the most important thing when it comes to building a house. A house can't be strong if it's built on something weak, and the same holds true in a garden. So to make the foundation of our garden strong, we filled it with something called soil. Good soil, which includes a bunch of tiny living things called organisms, can grow things in it. That's pretty amazing when you stop to think about it. A whole hidden world of life is happening beneath our feet. Just because you can't see the good things with your eyes doesn't mean that they're not there. And another cool thing about soil is that it feeds and strengthens the seeds we sow. And then, like a miracle, plants and flowers burst out of the ground. We also knew we needed our garden to get plenty of water. Rain is the very best thing for plants to drink, but it's hard to know when and if rain is coming. So a couple of other options to keep plants hydrated are to collect rainwater or use a sprinkler or a garden hose to get the job done. Once we had a location with plenty of sun, good soil, and watering plan, we got right off to work. First things first, seeds. Look, I've got a pile of seeds over here. Seeds. The most fun part of planning a garden was deciding what to plant. We started with the foods we like to eat, like strawberries and tomatoes. Then we chose some pretty flowers to keep them company. The thing about seeds is they're everyday miracles. Everything a plant will grow up to be is already hidden inside the seeds. We chose flowers like zinnias, sunflowers, and cosmos so that pollinators would visit our garden. Butterflies, hummingbirds, and bees spread pollen around from flower to flower, encouraging even more things to bloom. We like knowing that little helpers are out there in nature working with us to help the garden grow. The bees must have put the word out that we had a pretty good thing going, because sure enough, all sorts of other critters started to arrive. We quickly found out that there were 3 types of bugs in our backyard: the good, the bad, and the ugly. Let's start with the worst part. It was a pretty sad day when the aphids, pronounced aphids, arrived. They are some of the more well-known villains in the garden world. They suck the life right out of plants. But then the ladybugs showed up to eat those pesky aphids for lunch. Ladybugs, for sure, are part of the hero camp, bravely protecting our plant friends from harm. And there's how aphids is spelled. It's spelled a little differently. And we've got something to tell you about earthworms. They are like secret agents of the garden. Earthworms eat all of the dead things, like roots and leaves, and turn them into the life of the soil. Every time we found one, we would all high five me, and celebrate. They aren't pretty, but who cares? I think they're pretty. They're awesome, and we love seeing them hard at work. There's the secret agent worm. Great illustrations, great story. We realized pretty quickly that we needed to keep the weeds out. They are the true bullies of the garden. Weeds try to steal water, sunlight, and nutrients from our fruits and veggies. And it's our job to make sure those little rascals don't take over. No, 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 no. If we ignore the garden for too long, the weeds run wild and hurt our beloved plants. It's so much easier to do this just a little bit every day. We were officially gardeners and had a real-life garden to prove it. The garden became our pride and joy. Day in and day out, we tended to our plants, making sure they got plenty of sun and water. Every time a new plant sprouted up from the garden, our excitement grew right along with it. Great pictures. As time passed, our garden grew bigger, and so did our family. When our garden was finally in full bloom and growing tall, we'd run through the aisles and watch the butterflies flutter around us. But one day, as we were mid-skip, we noticed some trespassers helping themselves to our lunch. And by lunch, we mean half of the garden. Animals may look cute and innocent, but some have a sneaky side. They can wipe out a garden in no time flat. The chickens ate the vegetables. The goats ate Mom's roses. And the bunnies weren't picky at all. They ate anything in sight. Saying goodbye to that many happy plants was even harder than throwing away our first dead fern. We debated if we should just give up. Was it really worth it to start over again? Then we remembered one important detail. We are the gardeners. It was our responsibility not only to grow this garden, but also to protect it. So we put up a little fence to keep the animals out and got to work rebuilding our garden. It didn't take long to get our plants and flowers growing tall again. To this day, our very favorite days are when we get to gather the fruits of our labor. Mom loves to set the table with pretty flowers in every color you can imagine. We help her dream up recipes for the food that we've grown. Sometimes we see all of the beauty laid out and we can't believe our hands helped bring it to life, and it makes all of the hard work worth it. It's what keeps us coming back, day after day, season after season. We still keep a little fern on the piano to remind us of our small beginnings. Every time we water it, we are reminded not to give up when things don't work out the first time. Because the thing is, whether one potted fern dies or half of the garden is wiped out by little creatures, every failure or setback teaches us something. Dad says every hard thing we choose to do makes us braver and me stronger for the next time. There are so many lessons waiting to be learned and a whole world of gardening ready to bloom. We are the gardeners, and you can be too. So again, this is a great, amazing book donated by the Pensacola Little Theater. On the back it says, "Our journey as gardeners started with one small potted plant, but things did not go as planned. Turns out trying something new isn't always easy, but sometimes it's the hardest work that leads us to the greatest rewards." By Joanna Gaines and Kids. And these great illustrations are by Juliana Swaney. Thanks so much for joining me. And I have a little tour of the garden for you. Throughout the book, when I was reading it, there's a lot of things from the Ground Up Community Garden, which I am so fortunate that I get to be part of and be the lead gardener of. So I hope that you'll come out and see me in the garden sometimes, especially when all this clears off. And I hope that you'll enjoy growing your plants that you're going to be growing really soon. And in your whole life, really. Life is a garden. Thank you. Hope you enjoyed it, and see you in the garden. still keep a little fern on the piano to remind us.
To remind us.